All right, gang, I am sitting down now with a DPB alum guest, my good friend Paul de Vries. He is an ambassador of Marktplaats. He is a dealer of a Ligier franchise. Brand new, by the way. We're going to talk about that. He is an international speaker. He's the founder of the dealer, what do we call it? DCDW. Dealership car, what does it stand for? I just call it
the Digital Car Dealer Workshop.
Digital Car Dealer Workshop. And he has been making waves ever since I met him many, many years ago. Good friend of mine, Paul, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
Happy to be here and very honored to be here for the third time. So,
is this number 3? I thought it was 4.
I thought 3, but
okay, maybe it is 3. Well, you always share very practical information, and I love it. Recently, you and I were together in Kentucky at David Kane's event where I listened to you speak, was also your unofficial photographer.
My wife loves the pictures, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad she does. Happy birthday to her, by the way.
Thank you.
Have you asked her how it feels to be 29?
No, 34, I said to her. Yeah. If I stay under the 40, then it will be fine, right? Yeah, for now.
Oh, man. I always enjoy listening to you speak. Like I said, because it's so practical. Here you are, where everybody's got, their slide decks and PowerPoint presentations. And you asked me, you said, I just have a big notepad. Do you think that's going to be okay? And I said, I think that's going to be fantastic. A, because it's different. B, because to me, what I really drew from this and what I want the listener to understand is how well you have to know your stuff when the canvas is blank and you have to fill it in while you speak. You spoke about what I can only suggest is the science of how to manage and handle leads and appointments that come through your online properties and stuff. And so I want to turn this over to you. Can you give us a brief synopsis of the subject matter you spoke about at David's event and what you're seeing now, perhaps now that you're a dealer, where your mind is going on how to handle leads effectively?
Yeah, of course. The subject matter we touched upon is why lead handling is so difficult. It is so easy in a PowerPoint. It is so easy in Excel or in a white canvas. How it should work. But in the panic of the day, in the madness of a day's work at the dealership, it is not a ball game. So you have to be very practical to help dealers to understand why leads are important. And sometimes I'm very tired to say that again and again and again, because after all, we are saying that for the last 20 years. A lead, it doesn't matter how it comes in, but it is still a human being asking some information. And I touched upon the 6-step program we developed by accident with Toyota, the Netherlands here, where they ask us to help them with their lead follow-up. And the first thing we talked about why our BDC, I'm also the co-owner of a BDC in Holland, how the BDC can work together with the dealers to perform better on lead handling. And when we talked about it, we said to each other, why in the hell is it possible that we can teach a BDC rep with a minimum salary in comparison with a car salesman, that we can teach him or her how to do it, and we cannot teach the salespeople.
Right.
And that changed the whole dynamic of the conversation, because the OEM has 105 dealer stores, about 350 salespeople. If we can move the needle of that salespeople for only 10% to be better in lead handling, we will make a bigger impact than we make our BDC agents, 5 of them, better in handling leads. So we changed the dynamics, and we developed the 6 steps program where the salespeople were the diamond, the centerpiece of all. and we develop tools, we develop manuals, processes, training, coaching, but we emphasize a lot about the salespeople and how to handle leads, because I don't know how it is in America, how it is in Canada, but OEMs in Europe are spending a lot of money to train salespeople about the product. Everything about the product they should know.
Right.
But how to handle leads or how to handle an objection is something they don't teach upon, only at school, maybe, or in one podcast or in one book or whatever. And that is almost a lost art, because back in the day, 50 years ago, they were saying, hey, an online lead, online customers are different. We need other people to handle those people. And that's wrong in definition. So my presentation was going about the 6 steps and what we started with and where we ended last year in conversion and why it worked.
Let me ask you this to give some context, right? Because especially in automotive, we want everything now.
Yes.
But you said you developed this with your Toyota OEM in Holland. How long? And I'm sure you're still, iterating and getting new ideas and stuff. But initially, how long did it take for you to formulate the plan and start to implement it?
We're working now on the plan for the last 4 years and still not finished, because the consumer is changing all the way. Right? Because the dynamic of the consumer 4 years ago is different than it is now. If I don't answer the lead now within 1 minute, they are anxious, they are angry, they are not satisfied, etc., and all those kind of things. And also, if you don't have a WhatsApp integration follow-up system in Europe, then you are toast as well, because the private email is your last resort of communication and not your first or your second. And you can do better on postal card than send an email to a private email address.
Right. Talk to me about WhatsApp for a little bit. I mean, I know pretty much everywhere else in the world except for North America has adopted WhatsApp.
Yeah.
When you're talking about WhatsApp integration into your follow-up process, are you saying that there's some way for somebody to just click WhatsApp and it opens up and a conversation starts?
Yeah, it can be. It can be. First started, we perceived in Europe SMS or text as an old platform. That's something you did with a Nokia, and you don't do it with an iPhone. That's the way we see it. And when WhatsApp was coming up, it was actually free, because you only need a data stream. You need only to have Wi-Fi, and then you can text each other.
Right.
Back then, you have to pay the telecom provider for every text. So that's why it went from nothing to everything in 6 months or so. And now, if you don't have a WhatsApp integration in your lead management system or on your website or whatever the case will be, then your follow-up will not be that effective than it should be if you are using it. On the other hand, if you're using now text, because text is still used by the banks, is still used by the dentist, is a virgin platform. Nobody is using it, so there's not many messages going around that platform. So your message will pick up maybe faster than WhatsApp, because in WhatsApp you can have 200 messages in a day of your friends, right, friend groups, etc., and whatever the case will be. So maybe it will shift again, but we don't know. So we have to be agile again.
It kind of reminds me of direct mail versus, email. Mm-hmm. We got to a point where email marketing's adoption was so broad that people were finding direct mail became effective again because it stood out. There wasn't as much direct mail happening. I think that's interesting that you're noting that. Also then, I would just like to note for those listening, when I asked Paul for his phone number to update his phone number, he let me know that I was a dinosaur using SMS text messaging. And I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you even said the only reason I have it is because you and David Kane still text me.
Yeah, yeah. That's the only person, yes, which I have a text communication flow with. First, we started through Facebook Messenger, I thought,
Right.
and but it is true. The American friends I have is text dominant. But even Brian Brian Pesh is learning to use WhatsApp on a regular basis because it works like dynamite in Europe or in Italy or whatever.
Right. That makes sense. But also to your point, though, I'd like to just highlight that a broken clock still tells the time correctly at least twice per day.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe to your point, Paul, if things start to switch back to SMS, maybe I was just ahead of the curve.
You can be ahead of the curve again. No, but it is never to be right or wrong or
Right.
It is which communication channel the customer uses, we have to use. And
Right.
we have too much emphasis on platforms, on online retailers, where they want to funnel the consumer in their funnel. And
Sure.
I want to be facilitating the funnel the customer is choosing. If you choose to send a letter, that can be as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wanna have you break down, if possible, the 6 steps, or maybe maybe the first 4, whatever you're most comfortable with. I'd love to learn more about the 6 steps, but before we go there, DPB gang, I'm dying to know, Paul, what has your experience been like becoming a dealer again?
Oh, it is horrifying and satisfying in the same time. In the same time, I want, for example, we are building now the dealership, right? The building.
Right.
And French people ask me to set up a light box and I don't know the English word, but outside a pole of 6 meters, etc.
Right.
And I asked my my guy, which also makes all the signing on all my buildings for the last 20 years, what does that cost me? So he sent me a quote of 15,000. With the same colors, with the same, everything is the same. Then the French are saying no, it has to be through our supplier. I said that's fine either. 40,000. I said where's the difference? Oh, but we are paying with the other one as well. We are giving you a bonus for that. I said okay, how much is that bonus of 25,000 then? 500. And then okay, we didn't change that much.
Right.
On the other hand, it's very satisfying that starting the dealership again, because I was a former SsangYong dealer, a Korean brand, and a Chrysler dealer back in the day in 2009. And then I started the nieuwe autokopen.nl website, which I sold to eBay after that. And when you're writing a lot about how dealers should work, it is a very good example to say I'm right, and you can prove it that you are right. It's a very expensive way to say I'm right, but still, it is something I love to do, and I can have all my ideas in place to work it out, to try it, to pilot it, and then can write an article about it, how it worked, why it didn't work, or why it was a good idea to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I have to say congratulations, because I know ever since you and I have known each other, you've expressed your goal of owning a dealership again. And so the fact that you're making that happen, I think is nothing short of tremendous. So congratulations And also the bonus is you're already bald, so you don't have any more hair to lose.
Olga is now entering the office.
Does she agree with me?
No, she didn't like that I was that bold.
You know, well, look, some people, if Olga's still here, let me offer some fresh perspective.
Hi.
Hi, Olga.
Hi.
This is the way I say, you're not losing your hair, you're gaining more face.
Perfect. That's a good one.
Well, that's fantastic. Good to see you. Well, certainly congratulations. I love that. Now, and by the way, I'm keeping all of that in because I love that we got some FaceTime with your beautiful wife. Now, in that light, knowing now that you're a dealer, has that changed? I want to get into these 6 steps, but first I'm curious if your thought process about these 6 steps is changing as you're thinking about your dealership.
Yes and no, because the proof in the pudding was already our numbers at Toyota, at Hyundai, at Kia, etc.
Right.
So the proof of the pudding was that it worked, that we have success with a higher conversion, better customer satisfaction because the lead were handled properly, etc. But on the other hand, for the not so successful dealers we help, there are always people over there at the dealership, salespeople, which always want to argue with you why it doesn't work. And I want to have a place where everything is going to be my way. And if I'm doing a consultancy job, when I'm leaving the building, then they can do whatever they want. Right. And I want to be that example that say, hey, I want to teach you something, but I can show you also that I'm doing the same stuff over my dealership as well. And that's one of the forms I wanted to try out the new dealership, but also try out different things. So one of the things we developed is the live store. So on the website in business hours, and business hours are from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the evening, there is a button on the website which will say live store. And the live store will trigger, with one click on a button, a FaceTime conversation with the people in the dealership. And the people in the dealership will have a FaceTime conversation with the consumer on the other hand. And because the experience center should not be the experience center as a building, but foremost, it should be the studio for the website. So the website is going first and the experience center is going second. So the experience center has to build the trust for the website, not the other way around.
Right.
So people can have a FaceTime conversation asking for the models, the colors, etc. in real time without entering information like name, phone number, etc. But only one click on the button, a FaceTime conversation, and you can talk to people face to face and show them all the colors. That's one of the things I want to try out before I'm going to introduce that to 300 salespeople. But by the way, 290 people will be against it because they don't trust themselves in a FaceTime conversation.
Right.
So if I can prove that first, that is not that hard, then we have a better conversation.
Yeah, and I was going to say that that's going to be a huge departure from what we're used to, because it's like, no, I must capture the consumer's information so I know who I'm speaking to and what and gauge their interest level. You're saying, no, let's bypass all of that. I want to clarify something. You're saying that the experience is to line up the website. Is that because you're thinking about an online transaction sort of thing?
Yeah. So the website is first in my mind. So that is my most important shop. where I can attract the most people, because internet is never a wonder miracle. It is just a tool on scale to talk to more people than I can do in a physical manner. And so that's the benefit of the online experience. But the online website at itself will not sell a car more or less because you are doing it online with a button, buy me now online. Because back in the day in 2001, I already had that button, buy me now online. So that's nothing new. But on the other hand, Olga has a shop.
Right.
And in the shop, the first shop is the Instagram shop. The second one is the Marktplaats shop. And the third one is the physical shop, in that order. And Instagram will build the physical shop, and the physical shop will build the Instagram follow-up. And that's the same game plan we are going to do with the dealership, to make the website first, most dominant, and the experience center uses as a studio to develop trust on that hand. Because I'm speaking to 2 people or 10 people a day physical in the shop, but I can talk to 200 people online when they are. And if I'm doing all the borders, etc., to give information, I'm going to talk to 3 people. And I want to talk to 100 people.
Right. This is I love the way that you're thinking this through, and I think, you know, giving that option, making yourself more accessible to the consumer, in my estimation, can only result in good connections, increased relationship, and to your point, that overall experience that the customer have, I think, is going to be enhanced through that. But you'll have to keep us in the loop on how that evolves and what you're learning in that process. And certainly everybody that's listening should be following Paul on LinkedIn, because he talks all about that. We'll link to his LinkedIn profile in the show notes.
No, but on the other hand, we are going to try out, so the online-offline experience combined, we can call that omni-channel or whatever.
Right.
But on the other hand, we are going to try out the dealer and the agency model as well. So I have I have 3 big places in my neighborhood: Arnhem, Doetinchem, and Zutphen. It's in my region, which I have to make. I have now 3 dealers, which are going to be my agents. So that there will be my offline marketing. So the cars will be there on their facilities with QR and codes, etc. But somebody is going to scan that, and we can make an appointment with that consumer there with a FaceTime conversation, or physical, or on the location of the consumer. I'm going to pay them a fee. If I'm going to sell the car to them, I'm going to pay them a bigger fee. And they are going to do the handoff and the technical maintenance of the car. If they don't want to do that because they want to sell the car by themselves, they can have an invoice of me.
Right.
So I want to be the hybrid of offline, online, and I want to be the hybrid of a dealer and agency model combined. Because I don't believe a thing about Ford is doing now or Stellantis is doing now, because it will only work when the demand is high and the supply is low. But in a normal circumstance, it will not work.
That's a good point. Let me ask you then, I want to transition a little bit into these 6 steps. Can you walk us through? I know those listening are saying, Michael promised us 6 steps 10 minutes ago. What are the, so can you walk us through what's taken you now the last 4 or 5 years or more to develop, and maybe some examples of what that would look like for a dealership to implement?
Yeah, of course. So we started now with another OEM, and they have a response time, a mandatory response time on leads, online leads, for their dealers of 30 minutes. So they are asking their dealers to be responding to the leads in 30 minutes. And that's the only KPI they are giving the dealers. Be great, and be fast, and call the lead or respond to the lead within 30 minutes. We are asking them why 30 minutes? They have surveys, they have and content about 30 minutes.
Right.
And then we are going to say about the 4 traits of the consumer nowadays. The 4 traits of the consumer nowadays, we are walking with the iPhone, we are going to bed with the iPhone, we are going to a public toilet with the iPhone, etc. The iPhone is everywhere, or the phone at itself.
Right.
But if somebody who you don't know are calling you, you won't pick up the phone. So the response time is very big, because if you are in the moment to submit information, to submit a lead and submit and request information, you are in that moment. You have only 2 minutes to respond. If you are later than that, the chance on a voicemail, the chance that people are not picking up or no have attention whatsoever is very big. The second trait of the consumer nowadays, we have no time whatsoever. We have no patience whatsoever. You have children in some ages, when you shut up the Wi-Fi for 1 second, they are screaming for something. And you can say that as well on the WhatsApp. If you send out on WhatsApp, if you are using WhatsApp, and you send a message to your wife where you need the answer, and you see the blue remarks and you are not getting the answer back, then your basis is 0, because you need that information. So 2 of the 4 traits are very important in lead follow-up. So we're saying on the first step, you need to follow up within 5 minutes. And all dealers will be crazy, because it cannot work, it cannot happen, it's not workable, etc. But we are using an American system, the cold rep system, and that is a system which actually gives you a call, an inbound call, when somebody submits information through an online lead. So it forces you to pick up the phone. So it's actually an enforcer tool. So the 5 minutes or the 2 minutes is the most easy step of the 6th step, because that is something which, if you pick up the phone, then it will work. But the second step is that we made a process manual of 45 pages where we lay out the tactics. It's about 20 years of experience in 45 pages. About lead handling, about scripting, email scripting, SMS scripting, voicemail scripting, WhatsApp scripting, etc. How it should work. And it is not the Bible, but on the other hand, if you work the system like that, you will be successful. The step 3 is making the salespeople important. Not saying the BDC is there to help you. No, we invested a lot of time and money and effort on the salespeople. You have to be controlling the lead. We think you are important, because if I'm calling a dealer in Holland and I ask him physically, I'm interested in one of your cars, who do I need to talk to? He's going to say the salespeople. But then I'm going to say, hey, but if I'm calling, who should I speak to? Then he will say the salespeople. But then when I'm submitting a lead with a form, then it should be a BDC. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we are making it very blunt to the salespeople that they are important. The 4th step is the minimum acceptable performance. I'm getting that from Clem Pesh on the DMSC, where he went to last month. And that was about 7 years ago. They were talking about the minimum acceptable performance of 36%. So 100 leads, you need 36% conversion rate on appointments. So because one KPI is never a KPI. So in Holland, and I know for sure that in America no such salespeople existing, but they're getting the phone call, listening to the whisper, waiting for one ring to go to the client, and then hung up the phone, and then saying, hey, I was calling within 5 minutes, but the client don't pick up the phone. I did my job.
Right.
So you never trust one KPI, so you need a second KPI. But if they are setting the appointments, the sale will happen. But if they don't setting the appointments, the sale will never happen. So that's the 4th step. The 5th step is inspect what you expect, of course, listen to all the calls. So we're listening to thousands of calls in the Netherlands, in Germany now, and in Belgium. What happened in the call? Because the perception of the salespeople can have, I made an appointment, but without a date and a time, it is never an appointment.
Right.
So the assumption of the salespeople, I don't trust. I want to know it for sure, because the lead is in most cases for salespeople in the Netherlands, in Europe, free. But there is an obligation to do it right. And we have another system, so we have to pay salespeople a very good salary. You have to pay them sick leave, you have to pay them holiday days, etc. And they only have to show up. So you have to push them on the other way to control them actually what they are doing. And control is fine if you can explain why it happened. The leads are free, but there is an obligation to do it right. And the sixth step is coaching. And I always refer to the dry sponge technique. So if you can emphasize a dry sponge, a yellow one, a hard one, and you take out a glass of water and you will spill it out, about 80% of the water will spill off. That's the brain of a salespeople. If you train them for 3-4 hours, it will splash off. It will not go into that brain. But if you train them for every day 5 minutes to listen to his calls and give audio feedback on the call, on the conversation, and send them through an email to them through the cold rep system, you will train them every day for only 5 minutes. So the 6 steps is North Star. You need a follow-up within 5 minutes. The second, a lead process manual. Give them the content in video, in text, etc., how to do their job on lead handling. The 3 is making them important, make them feel important as well, as their striker, as the quarterback, or I don't know what a striker is in American football, but whatever. 4th is the map, the minimum acceptable performance. What are we aiming for after the 5 minutes? And then step 5 and 6 is inspect what you expect. We expect 36% conversion. If the salespeople are saying, I have 60, that's fine, but I want to check that as well. From a different source with a different set of eyes and ears. And 6th, coaching. So we started with some OEMs, and for example, we started with 8.9% conversion, 60,000 leads, and we diverted that to 17.2% after 3 years. And that's on scale with 300 salespeople, 100 stores. So it will work if you do the 6th step. It will never work if you're only implementing a tool. Because
right.
A fool with a tool is still the fool. So, and give me a sledgehammer, I cannot do anything with it.
I think we need to make a shirt that says a fool with a tool is still a fool.
Yeah.
Is still a fool. I love that.
Yeah.
Is there any, in your opinion, is there any room for a hybrid BDC sales department?
We have, because the BDC I'm owning is the escalation part of the OEMs. So we're working with about 6-7 OEMs. When the phone call is coming to the dealership through the cold rep system, and nobody picks up the phone because they are all in deliveries, they're all in sales conversations, whatever the case will be, if that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We are ringing once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5th time, 6 times, but the 6th time is going over to our BDC as well. Because we want to have a structure that the lead follow-up will be happening within 5 minutes. The first chance is going to the salespeople. The second chance is going to the BDC as well. Because a conversation with the client should be happening within the 5 minutes.
Right.
So the BDC is still part of the game, but as an escalation, not as the quarterback, not as the most important one. And then you can also see the numbers that the really good salespeople are doing twice that much appointments than a BDC because they are better. The average salespeople is losing from the BDC, and that's what we have to train.
The other thought that comes to my mind, and as we close down here, is I would imagine by implementing and training these 6 steps, the salespeople are more fulfilled. There's probably less turnover in the dealership because people are more satisfied with the work they do because they're actually getting results.
Yes and no. So in Europe, you don't have the turnover you have in North America,
right?
Because the loyalty goes 2 ways. On the other hand, if salespeople are having conversations with clients within 1 minute, after 2 minutes, they're submitting a lead, people are very enthusiastic about that lead follow-up. They are starting the conversation with a happy smile. Wow, that's fast, or something like that. That's the fuel you need as a salespeople. If the other end is responding in a good way, because if somebody's picking up the phone, you don't get exciting about that one. You have to pump yourself. But if the customer is actually respondingly happy to you because you are calling as a salesperson, that gives you the fuel you need to have the best conversation you will ever have. And that's fulfilling.
I love it. One last question for you. Do you have that 45 pages in English?
Yes. Actually, I made that for the Hyundai OEM in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, cool.
And I cannot write Arab, so I made it in English. So yes, I have.
Amazing. Well, we will link to that in the show notes as well for all of you listening. You're curious what that 45 pages contains and how you can improve.
And for the lazy ones, I have a summary of 2 pages. In English and in French and in German.
Well, we're gonna have to split test and see which one gets more downloads from the show notes. I already have my guesses. Paul, thanks so much for joining me on the show. As always, it's a delight to sit down and get to spend some time with you.
But thank you so much for everything, for your friendship and for the opportunity to be here again, and for the awesome time we have in Kentucky as well.
Yes, we had some experiences, didn't we?
Yeah.
How can those listening get in touch with you and learn more?
The best way to connect is LinkedIn. Paul de Vries 1972 is the name because it's the most common name in Holland, de Vries. So, or on Instagram or Facebook, and if you want to see the documentary about the dealership, we are doing every month a documentary about all the steps we are doing with the dealership. It is in Dutch, but you can see what we are doing.
I love it. Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you.